Dharma is a Sanskrit term that literally means the intrinsic quality of something. What we're doing here is making sure that we are very clear on what your intrinsic qualities are, according to your unique psychophysical nature and your unique gifts. What is it that you are here on this earth to be doing? How is it that you can be doing something that not only drives you and motivates you from within, but that's actually going to positively impact others around you? So we're going to be getting into your Dharma. Use whatever term you want. Dharma is a little bit more nuanced than just purpose, even though it's functionally we'll use those interchangeably, your purpose or your Dharma. That's what we're referring to here. We want to make sure that we start with a really clear idea of you doing something that you really ought to be doing. In other words, we want to make sure that whatever plan we are moving the direction of for your business, that it's actually what you ought to be doing or should be doing. Don't mean to should on you. Try not to should on you too much in this training. But the idea is, let's make sure that we have something that's really in alignment with your values, with your unique gifts, and then we can create a model off of that, because that, my friends, is sustainable. One of the biggest challenges I see people get caught up with is they get into, I have to make a business like this because this type of business could be successful, or Joey down the block did a business like this, so I got to do it like that, or I saw on the internet they did drop shipping like this, so I did it. That is so the wrong way to go about business. Sure, you might be successful, but you're not going to be happy because you're not necessarily doing something in alignment with your Dharma, your purpose. We want to make sure you're monetizing your purpose. If we could figure out a way that you make money doing the thing you do anyway, or for free as a hobby on the side, then that, my friends, is the most sustainable option. Let's get into this. So the first step here is we want to create our gifts list. Now, if you've worked with me, you'll know I am a big fan of making sure you have this gifts list and you keep going on and adding it and adding and adding and adding to it. Ultimately, what we're doing here is we're making a list of all of your favorite qualities, achievements, accomplishments, abilities, credentials, everything that you have done that you are, well, proud of and stoked on yourself for having done. Think of these as not only things that you are good at, but things that you have done. Even if it's not your favorite thing to have done, no problem, still mention it. What we're doing here is we're making an overwhelming list of these gifts, of your good qualities, gifts, abilities, credentials, and accomplishments. This, my friends, is something I'd encourage you to keep adding onto and onto and onto. And not only is it going to be a really good pick-me-up, whether you need a pick-me-up or not, just by looking at it, I'm like, wow, I'm really grateful for all these gifts. But what it's going to do is help clarify what direction we actually want to be moving in terms of your purpose, in terms of your Dharma. So pause this video here, do this exercise, and then go on to the next part. So step number 2 is we want to start to look at the common thread between all of these. We want to be really explicitly clear with what exactly is it that these a lot of these areas touch on that are, you could say, the through line. What do they have in common? So ask yourself, what is the form in which I can take what I have been gifted and share it in a way to benefit the lives of others? So taking all of your qualities, achievements, characteristics, whatever gifts you might have put there, what do they all have in common? It doesn't have to be all of them. When you look at the ones that excite you the most, the ones that are like, yeah, those ones I'm the most proud of, what do they all have in common? What types of tendencies, what types of direction, what types of niches do they touch on? And this is more of a creative task here. Is don't worry about getting something so narrow. This is something to really think about. Okay, what do they all touch on? And in this way, we can start to write about it. Another way to think of this is your perfect job description. If we could write a job description that you could create, whether something like this exists or not, that doesn't matter. What would the perfect job description look like for you? Write that down. Be as specific as possible. How do you practically add value into people's lives? What does that service look like? What types of programs, trainings, offerings, services would your business revolve around? Who are the types of people that you're here to help, etc.? Start to write about these different commonalities based on your gifts. And then you can move on to step 3. Step 3 is, what do you love doing about these? Think of this as the check. This is the checkpoint. Okay, now you've written a lot. Now, this is a really simple process here. It's just uncomfortable to sit there and acknowledge, wow, these are all the things that I'm really good at. These are the things that I'm really good at that touch on all these other gifts. Now let's ask why. what is it that you love about doing these things? What would you like, what would it be like to do this perfect job description? Why is it important for you to make this a reality? Start to really get into the reasoning behind it. And in this way, it's like a litmus test to make sure that you could say we're doing this for the right reasons. If as you go through this and you're like, I don't know, because Uncle Bob said I should, or because the guy on the internet said this is the right thing to do, or I don't know, I feel like I have to do it this way. If those are the kind of reasons that come through, let's try again. Let's get in touch with your real desires. This in a couple of steps, a couple of videos from now, I'll be showing you how to really get in touch with your wants and desires and your claims. But this is the first step in just really identifying, like, what is it why? What is it you want out of this? Why do you want to be doing this purpose-driven career? Get into some of those details. Write about them. What happens when you think about all of this? In this way, I want you to journal a little bit here and just really write about it and make sure that it's coming not only from a real and a deep place, but also as you write about it, you're like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. This is definitely a good motivator. And if not, boop, 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 boop. Go back to step number 1, step number 2, reevaluate, and then you come back to step 3. Once you've done that, then we get into step 4, which is as follows. So based on this information, what is it that you would believe to be your purpose or your dharma? Don't worry about locking this in stone. We're not writing a concrete for it to never change. Think of this as, with the clarity that you have now, your mind's going to want to say, I don't know, and you are not allowed to use those 3 words with me throughout this whole training. I don't know. I don't know is your mind's way of quitting on you, of saying, I'm done with looking for the information. You could say, I haven't learned that yet. That's different than I don't know, because then you could still take responsibility for going and learning. I don't know means I quit. Don't say I don't know. Based on that information, what is it that you do know about your purpose, about your dharma? Even if this is not the most perfect iteration that could ever be, don't worry about that. What is it that you do know about your purpose and your dharma? That's what we're going to start with. Hopefully this looks like the career that you came into this course with, but potentially this is either different or a more well-refined version of that. So write about that, the overall picture. And to give you some even more ideas to explore off, I've given you the ancient, what's called the Varnashrama system from India. So we're talking about dharma here, so let's talk about the type of dharmas. There's technically 5. I'm just going to mention the 4 primary, because the 5th really means anything outside of this. I'll get to that in a minute here. For many thousands of years now in these ancient yoga literatures, this Varna system, which really means like an occupational system, has been there not as a hierarchical in a way that one is better than another. Rather, it's saying, okay, there's 4 overarching psychological types that everyone is going to be in one of these categories. It's still quite broad, but it can help you narrow down what areas of your dharma you might want to be the most well plugged into. So let me give you some examples of what that might mean. So we have what are called brahmanas, or the teachers, the guides, the priestly class. These are the qualities that come natural to someone who has these type of brahminical qualities or these teacher-esque qualities. Don't worry so much about the names. Just think of it in terms of the types of qualities. So if what comes naturally to someone is more equanimity and peacefulness, they strive towards like controlling the senses, towards austerity, pulling the senses out of things, and not necessarily going towards sense gratification. They really value cleanliness. And then like this, if these are the types of qualities that come natural to you, it's quite possible that your natural proclivity will be like a brahmana or a teacher, a guide. We're going to come back to what you do with this information here in a minute. Similarly, for the Kshatriyas, or the leaders or the administrators, those who are protectors, those who have these kind of qualities, or the kind of qualities that such a person will have is they're going to be heroic and charismatic, and they're going to have a tendency towards power and very determined once they fix their mind on it. They're going to get it. They're resourceful, etc. Similarly, for the industrialists, or we can say maybe the mercantile or the agriculturalists, the Vaishyas, they're into everything from agricultural development like farming and animal protection and whatnot, to business and banking and agriculture, animal protection, etc. Everything in terms of expanding the economy, everything in terms of expanding the economy. They see things in relation like, hey, how can I monetize that? And then we have the helpers, those who they are most well situated by plugging into the bigger vision of one of these other three and serving that mission. So they might have tendencies of the teacher or of the leader of the industrialist, but they don't want to be the boss per se. They don't want to have to be the decision maker. They want to serve the decision maker. So these three types are typically what we would say is like the bosses, people who enjoy being the boss, those who like to make decisions, they like the control. It's just the way, whether they like it or not, this is how their mind works. Whereas the helpers, those are ones who see the vision and they like to implement. They like to get in and take that vision of the other three and expand upon that. So for these four types, and keep in mind, one's not better than another. This is not hierarchical in that way. It's simply a system to create, you could say, 4 buckets for which different personality types can get into. These are actually the traditional dharmas. There is a 5th one, which means outside of the system, those typically who are living in the wilderness or in the caves or in the mountains and kind of doing their own thing. They weren't in society. These 4 are within society. The 5th is like those who are out of society, which that ain't you, because otherwise you wouldn't be on this, listening to me on this computer right now. Or if it is you, now it's time to maybe reassess. So the idea here is, what tendencies do you have? Now, why is this helpful? It's helpful because let's say you are a wellness professional, and so you are now helping and healing people. According to this, we can get an idea of, okay, where are you going to be best suited, so that as we start to build teams, we're going to know what other areas to plug in to make your system whole. So let's say your nature is to teach, which for me, it's very obvious. It's like, this is what I'm on this planet to do, is to teach. Maybe some of these tendencies of the others I have, but this is it. Like, these are the things that I just love to do. I have a knack for it. I have a natural inclination. And so the benefit of knowing, if you are a teacher, if these are the types of things that come handy, we then might want to look to getting support from those who are going to be more of the leaders and managerial types, and those who are the industrialists that know how to expand. What to speak of then employing and getting help from those who really know how to, well, this is really where that expansion comes from in terms of the helpers. Or similarly, if you're a leader, then you might not be the one that wants to sit and talk all day and teach these things. Great, you're the manager. Let's get some teachers. Let's get some merchants and industrial types. If you are the Vaishya, if you are the industrialist, then great, let's get some support from the others. In this way, it can help you refine your Dharma even further. And there's one other practice you can start to get into. These are just some questions to really ask yourself as you go deeper into your own mind and understanding, to make sure, again, that we have a really accurate understanding of what you should be doing. And what is it that you really want to do in your life? What problems do you want to solve? How do you want to serve? What are you best at? Who do you want to work with? Write about your purpose and see what comes up. Once you've done all this exploration, then we go into the next step, which is understanding your value in relation to this Dharma. And then, my friends, we can start to get into the monk mindset method, starting to train your mind to do just that. So in other words, how to monetize your purpose. So check this out. Give it your full heart. I would encourage you to do this at least once or twice. Once you've gone through this video, go back through it, check in again, add a couple more gifts, refine what your ideal job description is, and remember, you can do it. You can do whatever the heck you want. Every job was a new job at some point. So even if your dream job doesn't exist per se, let's make it exist. Let's turn it into reality. I'm really excited to see what your Dharma, your purpose is after this exercise.